All right, welcome to anyone who joins or dares to watch or listen, because I am nobody. I'm a nobody. I'm nothing. I noticed Vosh covered something a day after I covered it, looking at these articles. But, he's going to get credit for covering it because he's a bigger YouTuber. He's actually popular. That's okay. I'm not mad about it as long as it gets covered. I think that's the important thing, you know? So, I have to be careful doing this. Last time I did this, it caused a flare-up from using the mouse too much repetitive motion and keeping my arm over there the way that it was, positional compression as well as repetitive motion. So I have to kind of be careful with this, apparently. I still would like to carve out time to make an actual video. I don't know what about, but I want to make a video. I like making videos. I don't like these live streams. I think this is ridiculous. I think people should just read their news, but I don't think a lot of people do. As I said, and when I first started doing this, if I post a news article link, no one will click on it. If I post a YouTube link about a news article, no one will click on it. If I record the YouTube video about the news article, people will watch it if I post that. If I record the AI audio reading of a news article and post that, people will watch it. But they won't click on a link to look at a video. They won't click on a link to read an article. They especially, even if I copy and paste all the words from the article and post it, they won't read it. Too long. But I do think it's good to read your news. And from multiple sources, is what you see me be doing on these live streams. You notice I use different media sources. Okay, so, here we go. There were a lot of articles during my time away. I'm not going to go over those. Many other people already have. Or at least they're going to, anyway, of things that I've read. And some of the things I've read have been frustrating, and some of them have been there's been a little bit of good news as far as pushback of people getting really frustrated and fed up with this regime that has taken over our government. This one is a 14-minute read. I don't think I'll spend too much time on it, but I find it interesting. Chicago Tribune, federal judge blocks Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago and rest of state. And I have not read the article, but I was interested in this because this is really important. This needs to be done. He needs to be blocked. Him sending these ICE people, these military people, and all this stuff into these cities. In my entire lifetime, I've never seen this in the United States. This is stuff that you always saw in developing countries, not a Western democracy. You never saw this in a Western democracy ever. You only ever saw it in countries that were just falling apart. Countries that throughout my life, Republicans would look at and say, I don't want to be like that country. We don't want to be like that country. And that's why they voted Republican. And this time they voted Republican and we became those countries. This is what I mean. Looking at the history of right-wing arguments, some of it, it's I can't tell if they're disingenuous, they have no values, no principles. I can't tell if they're brainwashed, that they've just been mired in propaganda, just steeped in propaganda and manipulative brainwashy tactics, like cult type stuff, or if they're just genuinely very naive and stupid and don't know what's going on. It's really hard to tell, but it does make trying to have debates and arguments and talks and reach across the aisle or whatever really kind of impossible. It's not done in good faith when there's no consistency, when you're like, I am a free speech absolutist, and then Trump's like, I want to silence people I don't like, and they're like, well, that's okay because stuff and reasons and stuff. That's a crock of shit. You're not a free speech absolutist then. You're not. You're just not. You're not a constitutionalist if you're okay with somebody violating the Constitution. You're just not. You are something else at that point, but not a constitutionalist. So I just find that fascinating. It's just, like, what the fuck, For a long time, though, right-wingers have told me, they don't want police states. They don't want big government. And this is very big government. This is police state. This is militarized law enforcement just running amok in cities. And that's really wild. That's very wild. And the thing is like they keep talking about crime rates. Well, if you look at crime rate per capita, rural areas actually have higher crime rates than the national average. You go to these very, very small rural towns to the United States, and not all of them, but a lot of them have higher crime rates per capita than the national average. Higher than Compton, higher than St. Louis. It's crazy. So I'm glad a federal judge is trying to block the Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops to Chicago and the rest of the state. They've been harassing and violently terrorizing people who aren't doing anything. Like an 84-year-old couple was beaten into the hospital because of these shitheads. A priest. Hey, Lothier, how's it going? A priest was shot in the face with a pepper ball by an ICE agent up on a roof. So I want to know what this judge is trying to do. A federal judge in Chicago on Thursday blocked the Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops to the city and state as part of its ongoing immigration enforcement push. They're still clinging to the immigration thing. Well, when federal agent shows up in Chicago, it should be very questionable. I don't know if they're harassing. I think it's a bit of a stretch. No, they're harassing, my guy. They're harassing. If you haven't kept up with, a priest who was praying, just praying, just a priest, got shot in the face by an ICE agent with a gun, with a scope, with a pepper ball right in the face. You got an 84-year-old couple covered in blood, cuts, bruises in the hospital. You have a person who was chased by ICE agents, boxed her in with their vehicles, got out, said, "Fuck you, bitch," and started opening fire on her. And then lied to the local police department saying that she was armed, and she wasn't. She doesn't have a weapon at all. That's a real story. They also endangered the life of a baby by breaking a windshield over it. I guess he left. I guess he could not compete with that. I don't know. If you're trying to defend this at this point, you're not going to get sympathy from me. I'll tell you that right up front. I don't, there is no way you can spin this. This is a fucking police authoritarian state. It's not acceptable. This is not what we do in the United States. Okay? If somebody's breaking the law and you want to call the local law enforcement agencies, fine. There's a system that we're supposed to go through when it comes to this stuff. Just jumping the gun, skipping over local law enforcement, local FBI, so on and so forth, and just jumping straight to National Guard and whatever the fuck ICE is at this point, who are not even detaining immigrants at this point. They've detained legal citizens, like not even just people of color who are citizens. They've even started detaining white people. You know, like this is indefensible at this point. If you're defending this, you're pushing a narrative, you're pushing an agenda. You don't care about facts. You don't care about reality. You care about pushing an authoritarian agenda, and you're trying to sweep all of it under the carpet because you're a fucking fascist and you're trying to rationalize it. That's how I feel, and if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself, Lothier. You can go fuck yourself. Anyway. Parts of ongoing immigration, and yeah, it's not an immigration, saying she had no faith in the government's claim of out-of-control violence, as she shouldn't, because there isn't. And that it was federal agents who started it by aggressively targeting protesters with tear gas and militaristic tactics. And they also did it to local law enforcement as well. Lothier, seriously, if you come back in and you see this, you don't know about the stuff that I'm talking about, you need to go look it up. This is all public information. This has been spread across social media. I don't know how you don't know about it. Accidentally, they detained a bunch of people in a fucking entire apartment complex. It's indefensible. It's just indefensible. I'm not gonna spin this and try to defend this. I would never do that. The temporary restraining order by Perry, which took effect immediately, bars the president from deploying federalized National Guard troops from any state to any location in Illinois. That's right, because he wanted to take Texas National Guard to Chicago, which puts us at a weird position in states' rights and actually a new low on a constitutional crisis. It totally violates states' rights. And I saw somebody trying to make the argument that it was civil war. It's not, but it is a massive violation of states' rights. You are literally militarizing one state's National Guard against another. And that's just unconstitutional. Governor J.B. Pritzker cheered the ruling in a statement on social media, writing, "Donald Trump is not a king, and his administration is not above the law." And he shouldn't. There should be checks and balances. The founders made... There's supposed to be equal powers between the judicial, executive, and legislative branch, but that's all been fucked. The judicial branch, the lower courts, seem to be really towing the line with these judge rulings like this. This judge ruling saying this is unconstitutional. You know, what the shit is this? Like, this is not American. I've never seen this in my life, and throughout my entire life, conservatives that I've talked to, that I've debated with, if I were to describe what is happening now and go back in time, they would be like, just no to all this, rise up and do something about it. Pro 2A kind of march thing. So I don't know what kind of mental gymnastics you have to do to going to the past and saying, oh, I would never support this in a million years. In fact, I would fight against it too. No, it's fine. Regardless of how you feel about the crime in Chicago, this is inappropriate. But no, I don't think it's civil war. It is unconstitutional. It is an abuse of the executive branch's power. That's indisputable. That's legal paperwork that you can read through if you want to take the time to do it. So I'm glad, like the Senate and Congress are not really standing up to it, and they're not really defending the Constitution. But these lower court judges are the ones that are holding the line. Law of the air, I'm not insulting you. I'm only insulting you if you support this. If you support this, then yeah, I'm insulting you. If you're not supporting it, then don't worry about it. But like I said, that's a 13-minute read. I don't have time for all that. I had a flare up from the last time doing this. I'm not going through all this. Trump paints a grim portrait of Portland. The true story on the ground is much less extreme. And there's been a lot of people on social media that have been posting videos of Portland, Oregon. And like I said, TikTok has been trying to suppress those in their algorithm because, much like what's on the screen in the picture, it's not a war zone. It's not. and just like in Chicago, they're really irritating the local law enforcement. They've been pepper spraying, dumb bullets, pepper balling, just even bear macing. Like I saw this one video of this girl that was just standing there trying to talk to one of the ICE agents and express how she felt using her First Amendment, saying, I don't approve of this. This ICE agent just walks up and sprays her like this close in the face with a can of bear mace. It's crazy. But you see posts like this on social media from Portland where, yeah, people are just going about their day, doing what they do. Are there street deals going on? Well, yeah, there's street deals going on all across America, rural America, city America, you name it. I mean, that's... You're never going to have a society that is a utopia. There's always going to be some level of crime. There's no such thing anywhere in the history of humanity of a clean, sober society free of crime. It does not exist. Utopian societies do not exist. Nobody's agreeing with police brutality. I'm just saying that some of those stories is hard for him to believe when mainstream media is sometimes spinning a narrative. Well, okay. So anyway, yeah, this is what Portland actually looks like. It's not crime riddled. And there, if you want to see something interesting, there's this YouTube channel. I don't remember what the name of it is, but I'm sure you could type it into the search bar and find it. There's this guy and his wife their whole channel is dedicated to driving across America through rural, very unpopulated, small towns. And one of the things, he looks at statistics. He looks at their average income, what percentage is male and female, the ethnic diversity. One of the statistics he looks at is crime rates. And what's interesting is in a lot of these rural areas, very, very small towns, I mean, some of them have a population of like 100. And out of 100 people, you know, you have like 15 arrests in 1 year. That puts their crime rate per capita higher than the national average. Like I said, you're not going to have a utopian society. And crime rates in Chicago are not as high as people think they are. And I mean, to be honest, the city that I live in has a higher crime rate. We're like top 5. And I'll tell you, I will be more than happy and more than comfortable to go and walk down the middle of the city and some of the quote-unquote bad parts of town completely unarmed. And I'm not scared to do that. There's not as much crime as people think there is. President Donald Trump, members of his administration, and conservative influencers painted a bleak portrait of Portland, Oregon at a roundtable event at the White House Wednesday, alleging that the city has been besieged by violence perpetuated by quote-unquote Antifa thugs, and that it is essentially a war zone. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, Trump said. I wonder if he knows what Antifa is. Like, I would love to ask Trump to define socialism, communism, anarchism, and ask him also what does Antifa mean? What does that stand for? I don't think he knows. I don't think a lot of people know. But the reality on the ground in Portland is far from the extremes described at the White House. Here's a closer look at the facts. The protests. Trump in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our offices and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. The facts. And you can get these facts outside of mainstream media. If Lothier comes back in, he should pay attention to this. You can get those facts outside of mainstream media by going and looking at people on social media who live in Portland, Oregon, who live in Chicago, who live in Memphis, Tennessee, who live in D.C., who post the people who are protesting. It's only like a crowd of 20 people. It's not very many people at all. But you zoom the camera in on these 20 people, and it looks more violent than it is. You see, you know, the smoke going off, the tear gas going off, and all that sort of stuff. And it looks like a lot more people. But if you pan out and you only see like 10 people, and the other thing you have to keep in mind, these protesters, they don't have pepper guns. They don't have pepper spray. They don't have pepper balls. They don't have dum-dum bullets. They don't have tear gas. They have signs because they're protesters. They're not armed. There have been nightly protests outside the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland for months, peaking in June when police declared one demonstration a riot. There have also been smaller clashes since then. On Labor Day, some demonstrators brought a prop guillotine, a display the U.S. Department of Homeland Security blasted as unhinged behavior. What about the guillotine during the January 6th for Mike Pence? What about that? Is that okay? The protests the ICE facility, which is outside downtown, have largely been confined to one city block. And one city block. If you've ever been to a major city, that's nothing. Wow. And have attracted a range of participants during the day. A handful of immigration and legal advocates mill about and offer copies of Know Your Rights flyers. Daytime marches to the building have also included older people and families with young children. At night, other protesters arrived, often using megaphones to shout obscenities at law enforcement. While the administration claims protesters are Antifa, short for anti-fascist, Antifa is not a single organization, but rather, and I think this has been explained like a million times, and if you don't know this, I'm skipping it. I don't know. Like, you should know this by now. The building was closed for 3 weeks from mid-June to early July because of damage to windows, security cameras, gates, and other parts of the facility, federal officials said in court filings submitted in response to a lawsuit brought by Portland, Oregon, seeking to block the Trump administration's deployment of the National Guard. The building's main entrance and ground floor windows have been boarded up. Protesters have also sought to block vehicles from entering and leaving the facility. Federal officials argued that this has impeded law enforcement operations and forced more personnel and resources to be spent from other parts of the country. So we're wasting tax dollars for this, where it's not needed. If they never gone there, we wouldn't be needing to do this. And yeah. However, in the weeks leading up to the Trump administration's move to federalize 200 members of the Oregon National Guard on September 28th, most nights drew a couple dozen people. Portland police correspondents submitted to the court shows. Protests began growing again after the National Guard was ordered to Portland over the objections of local and state officials. I have not made any new music. I wish. Well, I've been jamming with some people. I've been every Tuesday night. I've been going over to someone. I made a friend, and we've been all acoustic. I play the didgeridoo, so that's an interesting. We do folk music, so acoustic guitars, sometimes a banjo. And mix that, like folk music, with a didgeridoo, which is fun. And then I also get to do vocals. They're accommodating me based on my disability because I can't. It's hard to. Oh, he's still writing your horror books. That's cool. I hope you get published. It's hard, and also if you get published. Lothier, if you get published, know that it's not always about the money. I would play the didgeridoo, but the problem is getting a mic that will pick up the heavy bass lines. See, the problem is if you have to get a specialized mic for a didgeridoo. If you don't do that, all you hear is the basic, the bass line, what they call buzz, the hum. So all you hear is this kind of like, and you don't hear the sound variations because the bass line is too thick for the mic to pick it up. You have to do it if you use a normal mic like the mics that I'm using, they're good quality, but they're meant for what I'm doing right here for vocals. So like what they do for didgeridoos is they have these little mics that clip on the end of the didgeridoo that are specifically designed to pick up very heavy bass lines. And when you do that, you can hear more sound variation. That's more, you can hear the like, you know, if I took the didgeridoo out now, like, even with the sound variation, you wouldn't hear it over the mic. The mic wouldn't pick it up. All you'd hear is just even you wouldn't get the sound variations. The like I said, the bass lines are too thick. They're too heavy. They're too big. It is a percussion instrument, but the guy that I've been playing with, he's been in the music industry for a while. So the mic that he puts up to my didgeridoo, it is meant for those heavy bass lines, and he's worked with didgeridoo players before. He had like an elven drum tribe kind of band, and so he's used to working with didgeridoos and knows the type of sound equipment and stuff that he needs to pick it up. We did discuss, we do play a song called Grandpappy's Weed, and we did discuss at one point maybe me recording that and getting it online, and we might be doing that. But I'm wondering how the audio quality is going to work on that, because if I only record the audio through the phone, I'll have really good visuals because the phone records in 4K UHD. But the audio quality on the phone is kind of shit, and the only way that there's a possibility I could use audio software to scrub it. But really, typically, like when I make my videos, I record the audio and the video separately and then match them up later. Because the audio quality from the camera is shit compared to the audio quality that I can get from the mic, which tends to be very, very, very clean, crisp, and clear, and I can adjust bass and treble and all that. So anyway, since June, Portland police have arrested at least 45 people, with majority of those arrests taking place in June. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors have charged at least 31 people with crimes committed at the building, including assaulting federal officers. 22 of those defendants had been charged by early July. Is Portland on fire? No, Portland is not on fire. What does Trump say? Trump says, the amazing thing is, you look at Portland and you see fires all over the place. You see fights, and I mean just violence. It's so crazy. And then you talk to the governor, and she acts like everything is totally normal. There's nothing wrong. The facts. There's fires outside the building have been seen on a handful of occasions. In June, a man was arrested after he lit a flare and tossed it into a pile of materials stacked against the vehicle gate. According to federal prosecutors, who said the fire was fully extinguished within minutes. More recently, social media videos of Labor Day protests showed a small fire lit on the prop guillotine, and in early October, following the announcement of the National Guard's mobilization, videos on social media showed a protester holding an American flag on fire, and conservative influencer Nick Sortor, I have never heard of this person, stomping the fire out. The other thing about the guillotine, not only did they bring out a guillotine, do I take dabs? Hold on. Okay. Oh, here, this will probably be a better angle here. So, do I take dabs. What's that? What do you... Some pretty lip balm, you know, quote unquote, wink wink. Come on, Lathier. You know I'm not a law-abiding citizen. I do what I want. I'm an anarchist. I do what I want. Where was I? So, who, blah, 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 who said, okay, more recently in the guillotine, right. So not only did they bring out a guillotine during January 6th for Mike Pence, and that's what I mean. If the guillotine for these protests is inappropriate, I think it's fair, equal, balanced, that guillotine should be inappropriate too. I personally don't have a problem with the guillotine. The guillotine is a symbol from the revolutions that took place in the 1700s as people escaped from monarchical and theocratic power to establish republics and democracies, which are forms of left-wing governments. You know, people said we want power to the people, not this hierarchical structure stuff anymore, and we don't want to answer to kings and theocrats anymore. So I don't. That's what the guillotine represents: is the guillotine of the monarchs, the heads that they cut off in France for their revolution. That's symbology. I don't have a problem with it as long as nobody is actually calling for violence and nobody is actually hurting anybody. I don't see a problem. That's my philosophy. Do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody. You can do whatever you want. As long as you're not imposing your will on other people or hurting other people, I don't care what you do. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Anyway, there have also been some high-profile confrontations between protesters and counter-protesters in late September. Conservative media figure Katie Daviscourt, I've never heard of this person either, was hit in the face with a flagpole and suffered a laceration. Police logs show. In early October, Sortor, who has more than 1 million followers on X. Who cares? That happened back when it was still called Twitter. If you gained like 1 million followers on Twitter and nobody saw that as an accomplishment, nobody cared. It's like, oh, okay. Do that on YouTube. That's an achievement. That's where you'll make some money. People don't deserve to get smoke for their opinion. People have for their own soul. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, but anyway, this guy, this conservative influencer, was arrested along with 2 other protesters following an altercation. Local prosecutors ultimately, some part of me feels like everybody's just bored and just creating conflict. That this has to do with like people picking like fights over like ridiculous shit. I understand why people are protesting the ICE facilities because they literally are going around harassing like civilians and people within their communities and causing problems. I understand protesting that, but sometimes there's these instances of where the right and left are protesting each other over something that just never even needed to exist or occur, and it's like, are you guys just bored and creating drama because you're bored? I can't think of a specific example right now, but they have occurred. Prosecutors ultimately declined to charge him after finding that one of the prosecutors had pushed him and that any physical contact he had with other persons was defensive in nature. This just goes on and on and on about like Portland, but If you want to see what's going on in Portland, not through mainstream media, there are tons and tons of videos on social media of people who live in those cities showing you what's actually going on. These are not popular people. Some of their videos have gone viral because people are very, very interested in what is happening in Portland, what is happening in Chicago, what is happening in Memphis, and when it was going on in DC, but it's no longer going on in DC to my knowledge. So I don't want to spend too much time. Like I said last time, I spent too much time on this. I ended up with a flare-up. So I'm going to the next article. What's your opinion on? I'm talking about like Charlie Kirk. What's your opinion on that on the situation? There's good areas and there's bad areas and places. I guess. I mean, I supposedly live in not the I live in the suburbia part, the place that's supposed to be not crime, and actually the area of the city that I live in has a lot more crime than a lot of people would think. It's not considered the bad part of town, but it's got comparable crime. Anywhere you go, there's going to be crime. Just people are not perfect. They make bad decisions. There's no point in time, history, or anywhere in the world that you can point to of a civilization or even culture, even tribal culture, where there was no crime and everyone was just clean and sober, and we had this utopia. It just doesn't exist. Actually, I did a dissertation in high school in my English class on utopian societies. And they've been attempted many, many times throughout history. And every time you look at these attempted utopian societies, they always end up just erupting into infighting, violence. Some of them have just disappeared. Like, we don't know what happened to them, especially like in early days, like in the 1700s. In the colonization era of America, there was this group of colonizers that set out into the wilderness of America that was just completely and utterly undeveloped at that time. To create a utopian society. And it just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. We've found gravestones. A lot of historians suspect what probably happened as this project fell apart and started to erupt. You probably had disease. You probably had some people erupting into violence because they would get into feuds with each other and wouldn't have the resources or the structure there to solve them. And some people probably saw the writing on the wall and said, I got to get out of here, and fled to surrounding villages and small towns where they got absorbed in there, changed their name, and that's why we don't know what happened to all of them. But they basically, that one just kind of vanished. They never work, though. They never do. You cannot point to a single point in history, anywhere on the globe, any civilization, even a tribal nation, that has been completely free of crime, violence, or drugs, or any of that. It just does not. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There's crime everywhere, all times. What you can do is you try to get your crime rates as low as possible. That's about all you can do. This one, again, these Yahoo Finances, these are usually long with like many articles. All of this is in the description, by the way. So if you want to go and read these articles, they are available to you in the description. So these Yahoo Finances, these usually tend to be very, very long. Republican unity to avoid shutdown concessions is cracking after failed votes. So I want this ad to go away. There we go. Since the shutdown standoff commenced, it was Republicans who were confident the Democrats would crack in the face of a GOP plan to vote again and again on the same bill while offering zero concessions. But after 6 failed votes in the past 2 weeks, and with poll results showing the GOP is taking slightly more of the blame, while plans for permanent cuts from President Trump have yet to materialize, it's Republican resolve that is increasingly in question. Because remember, the Democrats, all they're asking for is to extend the ACA so that our health insurance premiums do not. Some people, their health insurance premiums are going to double. Some people's are going to triple. And that doesn't even count the out-of-pocket expenses that will also double and triple. No, I'm not planning on making an album. Which that's really scary. Right now, like, I currently have United Healthcare and they suck. They don't cover anything. Out of pocket insurance out of pocket without insurance, private payer to see my doctor is $150. And then my husband pays almost $400 every 2 weeks for both of us to be covered, and for me to see my doctor with United Health insurance, it costs me out of pocket $112 just to see her. So there's no way I'm going to be able to do pain management. There's no way I'm going to see neurology when a primary care physician is $112. And the thing is United Healthcare has before declined to pay that, and because they charge health insurance companies more money than they charge private payers, we've gotten stuck with the bill that they charge the health insurance company, and we do not get charged as private payers. United Healthcare loves to do that, and I hate it. We are switching back over to Blue Cross Blue Shield through the state, which means it gets some of its funding through the ACA. So we could absolutely be fucked by this if Democrats don't get their way and Republicans get their way. If Republicans get their way, we're screwed. We'll have to just drop insurance and stop paying for it to keep a roof over our head. And I won't be able to see the doctor anymore. End of story. And Trump has said multiple times this week he is open to healthcare talks. No, he didn't. He put a MAGA 2028 hat on the desk and told the Democrats to go fuck themselves. We're not going to talk about that, though, are we? Who reported on this? That's Getty Images. Yeah. What's the news source? Who is this originally? A Washington correspondent. But that... I'm just curious why we're not going to talk about how Trump told them to go fuck themselves. That's literally what he said too, albeit with a shifting message on timing, saying Thursday at a cabinet meeting, we are the ones that are saving healthcare. He also responded to the sense in Washington that Democrats are gaining ground by saying it's the Democrats who are divided. I don't think they are on this one. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are siding with the Democrats on this one because they realize, holy shit, this is going to fuck over a lot of people on their health insurance. Like, people will die from this. For now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson say nothing has changed, but with an acknowledgement that things are at least stuck. Their stance is under ever-increasing pressure after the Senate gathered Thursday afternoon and once again failed to reach the 60-vote threshold to advance either a Republican or Democratic plan to end the shutdown. The votes around the GOP plan have also seen zero movement, with the same 3 members of the Democrat caucus and 1 Republican crossing party lines each time, even amid a GOP pressure campaign that is fully focused on moving moderate Senate Democrats. Thune recently suggested to reporters that additional weekend votes may be tabled as, quote, "I don't know if that does any good." The Democrat tone has meanwhile become one of increasing ebullience that the party has the political momentum. The Republicans are just falling apart. They cannot justify their position, said House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on MSNBC on Wednesday, with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer adding to Punchbowl News, "Every day gets better for us." I think I'm going to leave it there. So basically, shutdown continues. See what I mean? Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually siding with this too. Marjorie has changed her tune. She even tweeted out, "Hey, if I die or disappear or something, I just want y'all to know I am not suicidal. I would not take my life. I think we should release the Epstein files, and I do not think that we should cut this ACA program that's going to fuck over everyone's health care in the country." This is quite a shock and turn of events. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, of all people. But yeah, that's a real thing. You can go look up her tweet. She actually tweeted that out. Like, "I am not suicidal. If I die, just know that." It's wild. I love getting news from overseas because I don't think these other countries have any need or desire to be biased. They're the outsider looking in. They're like, "Hey, look what America's doing." Why would they care about being biased? I mean, I don't think that they would. I don't think they give a shit. They're just like, look at what the stupid Americans are doing. So I like getting news about America from BBC or ABC Australia and other countries, because their ability to be the outsider looking in it can be very enlightening. So, U.S. kicks off controversial finance rescue plan for Argentina, and this is irritating to me with the trillions of debt that we have, our dollar losing its value, and it's just going to get worse. And the skyrocketing prices, housing is about to go up even more. Not just buying housing, trailer parks, apartments, all of it just is about to explode. And this is what's happening. The U.S. has purchased Argentine pesos, taking the next step in a controversial effort to claim a currency crisis hitting the South American country and its President Trump ally, Javier Milei. And see, this is the thing, like, I have often questioned this very, very, very hyper-libertarian idea of eliminating all these government agencies and no regulations on capitalism. It just sounds like a really bad idea. And I've played scenarios of this out in my head. And I really, really think if you do unregulated capitalism, you eventually accidentally end up recreating feudalism. And since Javier Milei has done this, his country has just fallen into turmoil and it's going bankrupt. Poverty is up. It's not good. It's bad, and we've essentially done the same thing here in America. Not to the extent Javier Milei has done, but yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the purchase on social media while saying the U.S. had finalized terms of a planned it says BN. Do they mean billion? I think they mean billion. $20 billion financial rescue for the country. $20 billion of our tax dollars are going to Argentina to bail out Javier Milei's failed experiment. Yeah, I think if you want to experiment with that level of unregulated capitalist libertarian philosophy, you should have to own up when it fails. You should not be able to come over here to America and just have us bail you out. I don't agree with it when I don't want to fund Israel and what they're doing in Gaza. I don't agree with that either. I didn't agree with the Iraq War. I didn't. Just no. Just no. I want us to focus. We want universal health care. You know, we need to get the housing market here under control. I don't know why we're bailing out Javier Milei. Fuck him. The U.S. Treasury is prepared immediately to take whatever exemptional measures are wanted, he said. The announcement helped boost the peso and Argentine debt on financial markets, but renewed debate in the U.S., where the decision to extend financial support to Argentina at a time of spending cuts at home has drawn scrutiny, as it very well should. Instead of using our dollars to buy Argentines' pesos, Donald Trump should help Americans afford health care. Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that. And I think, you know, any leftist is going to be on the same page as that. Argentina has been facing increasing financial turmoil ahead of national midterm elections set for 26 October as questions rise about whether voters will continue to back Milei's cost-cutting free market reform agenda after recent loss in a provincial election. The value of the peso has declined sharply in recent months, while investors have been dumping Argentine stocks and bonds. They're doing the same thing here in the United States, by the way. But the same thing's happening to us because we did the same shit Milei did. Milei's government has tried to subsidize or stabilize the situation, but the moves have drained the country's reserves a few months before billions in debt payments will come due. So he's looking to America for a bailout for socialism of a country's entire economy on the economic political principle of socialism shouldn't even exist. What happened to this whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps? Sounds to me like it doesn't work. Sounds to me like cooperative survival works. That's part of anarchist philosophy. That's Besant, who made his name as a trader involved in the Black Wednesday episode in 1992 that forced the UK to devalue the pound, said in a statement that the success of Argentina's reform agenda was of systemic importance. I feel like the only reason it was of systemic importance to him is because he likes the idea of the libertarian philosophy of unregulated capitalism, and he wants it to succeed because people who are rich and live in very privileged situations will stand but nothing but to gain from it. They'll be able to do whatever they want. They can charge us millions of dollars for a sip of water if they want. But that's exactly the problem, is it bankrupts us because they do things like that. The cost of goods and services starts to significantly outweigh the pay, and if you catch the pay of the working class up to where they can actually afford it, the employer class doesn't like that, because that dips into their extraordinary, mind-blowing profit that they want even more of. So they raise costs even more, and you just get caught in this cycle where nobody can afford shit, which means they're still not making money because nobody's buying their shit because no one can afford it. Because this idea of perpetual profit growth and perpetual transactional growth is unrealistic. You're gonna plateau, and that, according to free market capitalism, that's just part of the territory. You either run your business well or you run it into the ground. And this is the problem with this sort of capitalist model that's completely unregulated. It's very unstable. It leads to an issue where so much resource is compiled at the top, there's no monetary value for, like, you have this 1% of the population and they want to make money off 99% that have absolutely nothing. And so they just start living off the land and doing their own thing, and they're like, nobody's buying our stuff. Well, nobody can, because they don't have any money. And if they do have any money, they want to charge so much for the resources that they are gatekeeping from the people, some of which are very important, like food, housing, water, energy, medical care, that, it just ends up destroying society, destroying the economy, destroying the country, and the people end up in mass poverty and living in little huts made out of whatever they can find on the street. That's the problem with it. Every time you need rules around it. You know, like, it's like FDR said, capitalism is like a wild horse that needs to be tamed. If it's not tamed, it's just going to wreck everything. That's what it does. A strong that's a democratic social democrat position, by the way. A strong, stable Argentina, which helps anchor a prosperous Western Hemisphere, is in the strategic interest of the United States, he added. Their success should be bipartisan priority. Why? Why? This was his project. This is what they wanted to do. I don't know why it becomes our problem. I don't know why we need Argentina to succeed when they do this little experiment. The Treasury Department did not respond to questions seeking more detail about the U.S. support, including how much of embattled pesos the administration had purchased, or the terms of the 20 billion currency swap line, which will allow Argentina to exchange pesos for dollars. Basically, we're giving them dollars in exchange for a penny. or a piece of tissue paper at this point if their currency is completely flatlined. In a social media post, Milei thanked Trump and Besant for support. If we're just going to be handing out $20 billion because of people's fuck ups, why, like, I didn't make a mistake. I worked and I damaged my body. How about you pay me, like about $1,000 a month for the rest of my life? And that, if you did that, if you pay me $1,000 a month for the rest of my life, it would not equal $20 billion. It would be less. It would be cheaper to pay me $1,000 for the rest of my life, $1,000 a month the rest of my life, than paying Javier Milei $20 billion. And my issue is not from a mistake that I made. It's a life accident type thing. So, in a social media post, oh yeah, I already said that part. Together as the closest of allies, we will make a hemisphere of economic freedom and prosperity. Maybe economic freedom, but not prosperity. That's what usually happens, and you're seeing it happen again and again and again and again and again. And I don't know why people keep wanting to try this failed experiment. Argentina has defaulted on its debt 3 times since 2001, including most recently in 2020. Cool. But investors, including some with ties to Besant, such as Robert Citrone, I don't know how to say his last name, whatever, had taken a renewed interest in the country in recent years in a bet on Milei's libertarian financial reforms. Since he took office in 2023, he has introduced delegation and sweeping cuts to public spending to curb inflation and achieve a fiscal surplus where the state spends less than it takes in revenue. Domestically, the austerity measures have been met with growing backlash as people's purchasing power declines and the country faces likely economic recession. Yeah. No one should be shocked by this if they understand how economy works. But those measures have helped to rein in inflation and have been largely welcomed by international investors and the international monetary. See, rich, powerful people absolutely benefit from this. But the country overall, the 99%, the vast majority of people, the working class, the people, do not benefit. It actually is substantially damaging to them, so rich, powerful people can become more rich and powerful. And then they want to say that that's freedom, but it's not. Welcome to International Monetary Fund, a key lender to Argentina, with Milei styling himself as a Trump-like figure complete with "Make Argentina Great Again" rhetoric. They have also won an admiration from many conservatives in the U.S. He has met repeatedly with Trump, with another visit expected next week. Nonetheless, the decision to extend financial support to Argentina has sparked backlash amongst American farmers, a key part of Trump's voter base who have been concerned as China shifts purchase of soybeans to countries including Argentina. Why would USA help bail out Argentina while they take American soybean producers' biggest market? Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, who represents Iowa, a key soybean producer, who wrote on social media last month when the U.S. first pledged its support. Besant's announcement followed 4 days of meetings with Argentina's economy minister, Luis something, In his announcement, Bassett said the international community was unified behind Argentina and its prudent fiscal strategy, but only the United States can act swiftly, and act we will. He has previously pushed back at suggestions that the support amounted to a bailout for what Warren, in a statement on Thursday, dubbed the administration's billionaire buddies. And I think that's what it is. This trope that we're helping out wealthy Americans with interests down there couldn't be more false, Besant told CNBC earlier this month. What we're doing is maintaining U.S. strategic interest in Western... What? Argentina's failing because they wanted to do this libertarian, far-right economic philosophy, so I don't know why it's so important. There's actually... I think Besant has some kind of stake in this, and that if it fails, he loses a shit ton of money. And there's a motive for him to do that. Just something to think about. So, yeah, we're in the president of no wars, right? Even though he bombed some places. U.S. to send 200 troops to Israel to monitor Gaza ceasefire. I thought we wanted to stop doing this, but I guess not. And again, I've heard from conservatives time and time again, they're tired of America being used in this fashion, and yet here we go again. Up to 200 U.S. troops already based in the Middle East will be moved to Israel to help monitor the ceasefire. I'm going to try to read this fast. Ceasefire in Gaza, according to the U.S. officials, the U.S. military will establish multinational task force in Israel, known as a Civil Military Coordination Center, which is likely to include troops from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the UAE, they said. One senior official said no U.S. forces will enter Gaza, adding that the American role was to create a joint control center which will integrate the multinational force going in. The Israeli government has approved first phase of Gaza deal with Hamas, which has led to a ceasefire and release of hostages and prisoners. Israel-Gaza war ceasefire live updates. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I didn't need to read that. The task force will be led by U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, based in the region, and is intended to oversee the progress of the ceasefire agreement and also help coordinate humanitarian assistance. The multinational force will inform both the Israelis and Hamas via Egypt and Qatar of the situation on the ground and any potential violations of the truce, one of the officials said. The force is being established under the leadership of Adam Brad Cooper, head of CENTCOM. He joined the American delegation for part of indirect talks in Egypt earlier this week, one of the officials said. Those talks led to U.S. President Donald Trump announcing on Thursday that Israel and Hamas had signed off on the first phase of a peace plan he unveiled last week. One of the points in Trump's 20-point Gaza plan included the U.S. working with Arab and international partners to develop temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy Gaza, but this is not yet to be agreed between the sides and would only happen if a hostage and prisoner exchange is completed. Israel launched the war in Gaza in response to the Hamas attacks on Israel on 7 October 2023, in which about 1,200 people were killed and 251 were taken hostage. Since then, Israel's massive military offensive has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians in Gaza. Holy shit, that's a lot of people dead. According to the territories Hamas ran health ministry, including more than 20,100 children. These figures seen as reliable by the UN and other international bodies. I think more and more countries are stepping up and being like, we are not supporting Israel in this shit. So this I'm interested in because you have the big bullshit bill, and it's going to mess with taxes. He's also done massive cuts and layoffs to the IRS, so I don't know how they're going to enforce things like tax fraud, but I am very curious what is going to happen with our taxes. The IRS released next year's income tax brackets on Thursday, providing an early look at what Americans can expect to pay in their 2026 tax returns. The IRS announcement comes 3 months after passage of President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which renewed a suite of tax cuts for households and businesses. The inflation-adjusted brackets will apply to income earned in 2026 and typically filed in 2027. Adjusting for inflation means Americans must earn more before getting taxed in one of the higher brackets. Here are the 2026 tax brackets for single individuals and married couples. This is really important. I hope people are watching on this one. I hope Lock the Air's still here. This is important information. 10% for single incomes of $12,400 or less. Okay. Used to be if you made less, you didn't get taxed. Now they're saying if you make $12,400 a year or less, you have to pay 10%. And if you're a married couple, it's $24,800 or less that you have to pay 10% on. $12% for single incomes over $12,400. So if you are a single person and you make $12,400 to $50,400, you are going to be paying 12% of your income in taxes. If you are married and you make $24,800, you will be paying 12%, all the way up to $108,800. Okay, I'm not going to do that all the way through. I think you understand the gap here. For single incomes of $50,400, it's 22%. Married couples, $108,800, 22%. Now, looking at the last census records that I did, 69% of Americans live in the income bracket of $0 a year to $99,999. So now that we're getting into people who make $105,700 per year, you're getting into a bracket of the population that is very small. A little over a quarter of the population. So, maybe about 27% of the population is... 20% of the population is going to be doing... Okay, so it stops... because there's a stopgap in taxes at 800,000. So between 640,000 to 800,000. The people who are in that income bracket will be paying 37%. And then you have this very small percentage of the population, people making 105,700 to 256,225 will be paying between 24% to 35% in taxes. And so then anyone making over 800,000 a year as a single income, which that gets into your top 7%, they max out on tax percentage. So they pay their taxes within the first. Some of them pay their taxes within the first hour. Some of them pay their taxes, like Jeff Bezos pays all of his taxes for the entire year within the first minute of business. Because they have a cap on if you make over 800,000 a year, you stop getting taxed at a certain percentage. So this is something that's changed, is people who make under 12,400 will now have to start paying 10% in tax. The only people who got a tax break, and people have been saying this for a long time, the top 1%. They're getting the biggest tax break we have ever seen, of something to the tune of $6 trillion. Meanwhile, everyone in an income bracket of below 800,000 a year as a single person, or 768. Well, I don't know what the cutoff is for couples. What the cutoff is for that, but we'll just go single pair, a single income. Anyone making $640,600 a year, all the way down to $0 a year, everyone in that bracket, taxes just went up. They just went up. It used to be if you made under $12,400, you did not have to pay taxes. Now you got to pay 10%. So I guess if you made $1, you have to pay 10% of your dollar in taxes. That's insane. I have seen a conservative economist talking about this before, where his plan, his goal was to overtaxize people in the bottom class because there's more of them, so that they could give tax breaks to the wealthy and then moderately tax the middle class, which is where you see 22, 24, 20, 32%. So our taxes are going up. And then the top 1% get $6 trillion tax cut. So you people watching, this is important. Our taxes are going up. Look at this. If you make $12,400 or less, your taxes are 10%. If you make $12,400 or more, up to $50,400, it's 12%. If you make $50,400, it's 22%. $105,700, 24%. I really doubt anyone watching this is in an income bracket of $201,775. You start getting up into these bigger. I'm serious. I looked at the census records. 69% of Americans live in an income bracket of $0 a year to $99,999. Most people are not above $99,999. That's a small percentage. Other changes include a boost in the standard deduction as a result of the GOP tax law that will be increased to $16,100 for singles and $32,200 for married couples. IRS is implementing no tax on tipped wages only for the first $25,000 of income for 70 jobs in the private sector. Those are mostly clustered around the service industry. So waiters, bartenders, and cab drivers are poised to qualify. But it's only on the 25,000. After that, no more. Notably, the IRS on Wednesday shuttered a significant portion of its operations as a result of ongoing government shutdown. Now in its second week, the IRS will continue collecting tax revenue, a function deemed essential. About 40,000 IRS employees are exempt from the mass furloughs, according to a Treasury plan. Our taxes are going up, y'all. We're gonna pay more. Except for except for Jeff Bezos and Musk and Oprah, you know, they get a tax deduction. They're getting $6 trillion worth of tax cuts. Meanwhile, we're all gonna have to start. And people who originally were tax exempt because they were too poor, they have to start paying 10%. What was this? This is a CNN. CNN is kind of blah, but as more air traffic controllers miss work, Transportation Secretary threatens to fire them. And we've seen this before. They did that under Ronald Reagan did this too. He threatened to fire all the airport people because they were protesting to unionize. I don't know that this will be a particularly interesting article. I thought it was funny that he considers them problem children because they're not showing up to work. Due to the government shutdown, they're not getting paid. He's basically saying, show up to work, do your job without pay, or you're being fired. Okay. And then... Wait. So... Senators depart Washington without a shutdown deal. Let's hear what he has to say.
This shutdown, and still no real end in sight. Both sides have not really come to the table and talked about concrete ways to get out of this shutdown. What we're watching for now is whether there's some more urgency into the conversation, because tomorrow the first group of federal workers are going to miss their paychecks, and in a couple of days you're going to get even more federal workers, and that also includes members of the military. Now, this morning, something pretty extraordinary happened. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, went on C-SPAN and took calls from regular Americans, and he got a call from a military spouse, a woman who says that without their paycheck, their family is going to suffer, and also their children who rely on medication are not going to get it. And she speaks for many military families.
So here's the thing, though. If the Democrats don't get the extension on the ACA, they're not going to be able to afford the care, the medical care that they're talking about for the children either. This is a fallacy called appeal to emotive force or appeal to pity, one and two. That's a very nifty trick for him to do. For Mike Johnson to do, because it's not covering the other side. It's like, yeah, if they don't get paid, they're going to struggle. But if they get rid of those ACA that kicks in and pays hospitals. Like hospital wards are there's wards of hospitals that are already closing down. Hospitals closing down in rural areas. We've already heard about that. But like one of the things that hospitals are getting rid of, like across the United States, are maternity wards because of this. And they're doing that to save money, and it's other wards that they're shutting down as well. But a lot of our insurance companies, they get subsidies from the ACA to help cover our expenses. And so without those subsidies, our out-of-pocket expenses are going to go up. Our premiums are going to go up by quite a significant amount. And yeah, you're struggling because you're not getting paid, but you know what else will make you struggle is if your insurance premiums triple and your out-of-pocket expenses triple as well, because you have no socialized health care anymore. Senators departed Washington without a deal to end the government shutdown. Yeah. So the Republicans are really hell-bent on not doing this. It just seems like they don't want to do this. But the damage that this will do if the Democrats don't succeed, people will needlessly, I think that's an operative word, needlessly die. Like healthcare will become like going to the dentist. Like you think about people who go to the dentist, like, oh, you must be rich, you can afford to go to the dentist. Only rich people who do that anymore. That's what's going to become of our healthcare. Think about this. Like one of the things that terrify me is the thought that my grandparents, they are almost 100 years old, and they got a lot of health problems. But they were very, very fortunate to be able to live through the 1950s. So they were able to amass a lot of equity with very little. So compare like they are essentially rich. They are essentially rich. And how they got rich is amazing because they got there by only making $20,000 a year. In order for any of us to have the lifestyle that they lived and the lifestyle they have as they are retired, we would have to make something like $86 an hour in today's economy. They were able to get a house and these cars and amass a lot of equity off of very little, doing jobs that no longer exist. It was amazing what my grandpa was able to build, what he did for a living. It's amazing to me that was considered a job. Today, if you were to do that exact same thing, you would get absolutely nowhere. You would not be able to build what my grandparents built off of what he was doing. Do you think you could build basically get to a point of being able to live in like a 5-bedroom house, 5-bedroom, three bath house, thousands of square feet in the middle of suburbia, off of being a door-to-door salesman selling, like, I don't know, Avon? You can't do that anymore. But what I was getting at, the healthcare. So my grandpa, he's had like 3 or 4 pacemakers installed. He's got neuropathy, and like I said, he's almost 100 years old. Okay, so he's got a lot of health problems. They're both very, very old. He's got neuropathy in both legs, neuropathy in his arms, hands. He's going blind in one eye, deaf in both ears. The only reason he's able to retain his independency is because my grandmother is healthy enough to take care of both of them. She has her own health problems, though, that are doing her in and will probably be the cause of her death, but they do not take away her independency. Don't ever let something take away your independency. That's how you end up in a long-term care facility. You do not want to lose your independency. Take it from me, somebody who's done CNA clinicals in a long-term care facility. So anyway, it occurred to me, if I or my husband had even one of the health problems either one of my grandparents had, we'd be dead. Like, that's where we're already at on healthcare. Just simply because we wouldn't be able to afford it. So we would just be dead. We don't have access to the health care that they do because of the amount of wealth that they have amassed. So that was something that clicked in my head, like sort of a horrifying realization. If I needed, like, there's no way I would be able to get 3 pacemakers. I'd be dead. And if the Republicans are able to cut the ACA, that's going to get worse. I probably won't even be able to see my doctor anymore. Get any treatment at all. Along with a lot of others. A lot of us. So it's kind of a scary thought. And they're trying to do this. Mike Johnson is trying to do this appeal to a motive force kind of thing, where it's like, you know, here's a veteran, and we should take care of our veterans. We absolutely should. But it was the Trump administration and Musk and that whole Doge shenanigans that went in and cut the VA and cut their funding and laid a bunch of people off. And so they're struggling to get help, and you have this person, oh, I'm a wife of a veteran, and I have our kids, and we're not getting paid, and if we don't get paid, it could really hurt us. My child needs health care. But the thing is that's short term. As soon as the government gets back open, you're going to get your pay. And it was Trump who said that the government employees are not going to get back pay. He could have easily said, don't worry about it, you're going to get back pay. And so they're not going to get back pay because Trump said no. So that's on Trump, too. Whether you like it or not, that's what he said. The thing is, in the long run, if the Republicans cut that ACA and the Democrats do not get what they are asking for, which is a really basic ask, it's simple. Everyone's health care is screwed. It's fucked. Like I said, even Lauren Boebert, fucking Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene are even like, I can't sign off on this. This is a rare moment where Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are agreeing with the likes of Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Jasmine Crockett. That's how bad this is. And the Republicans are absolutely refusing to work with the Democrats. They're like, no, we are not extending the ACA, and they're keeping it shut down. They're the ones keeping them from their pay. And they're the ones that said no pay reimbursement, like They're the ones that made that decision. And they've also been threatening just to lay everybody off, just lay a bunch of people off. They've also been doing that too. Not the Democrats, it's the Republicans doing that. If that ACA goes away, if the Democrats do not get what they want, we are all going to feel that. It's going to hurt like hell. So, yeah. Again, all the links to these articles in the description. This is the last article. I'm done. I'm say, like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff if that's what you want to do. I said I would prefer to make videos, not do these live stream ones, but it gives me something to do. It gives me a sense of accomplishment, all that sort of stuff. So, and I think it's important that people read articles. I think it's important to know what's going on. So, I hate that we live in such fucked up times. Yeah. I'm trying to think what, I guess I'll just play Song of the Hype as the outro. And, you all take care. I forgot what I did with it. I gotta pull it up here. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna do collectivism. I'm gonna do the main mix. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Out. Enjoy the outro. Love you all. Be good to each other. Peace and love.